Hi everyone, Stephen here at Teach Me Music, and today we're going to be talking about tuning the bass and why it's important to tune in general. So I'm going to give you a few little tips and a few things to watch out for, because if you don't watch out for these things, you might tune completely wrong, and literally if you don't tune correctly, you could play all your favorite bass lines, could play all the things you want to, and it looks like you're playing the right notes because you kind of are, but because you're in a different tuning and you haven't tuned correctly, what's going to happen is you're going to play all the wrong sounds. And people are going to basically say you can't play bass, and it's not your fault, it's the instruments. So the easiest way to tune, because there's a lot of different ways we can do it, we're going to rely on technology today, because technology is the most consistent and the most accurate. So I'm going to teach you how to use different things, different apps, different equipment, but it's all digital. So the idea is once you get used to using digital stuff, you can manually tune yourself, but I'm going to teach you how to do that in later videos. So this is going to be using tuners, and you can get an app which is free on your phone to tune. Really consistent because it's cheap and you basically get it for free. And the idea is that it's really portable because you can take it anywhere you want, but it's not super consistent when you measure it up to something that you buy or equipment that you pay for. So you've just got to make sure that you know which one is financially better or which one's going to give you the best result. So an app on your phone is really cool. There is a clip-on tuner as well. They are a little bit more expensive because they're not free. And the best thing about them is they don't use external noise, they use vibration through the bass. So you can use them in really loud environments. And obviously if you can't find a quiet place to go, clip-on tuner is a winner. And they are quite portable as well because they're very small. The other thing you can use is a Soundbrenner Core, which is kind of the latest invention in terms of tuners. And it clips onto the bass via a magnet, which means you don't have to basically damage the bass in any way, shape or form. And it looks like a watch, so you can literally take it anywhere you want, but it is the most accurate out of all of them. But it's obviously the most expensive. So you've just got to look at the different types, work out what's best for you, and if you can't afford anything, then just use your free app, and that way at least you know you're roughly in tune, but just be wary, it's not super consistent when you measure it up to obviously other equipment. I'm going to show you how to use all of them in this video, and I'm just going to show you how to tune to standard tuning and the best way to remember it. So let's talk about standard tuning first, and then I'll show you all of the cool equipment we're using today. So when we talk about standard tuning, on a 4-string bass anyway, and that's the 4-string bass we're using today, each string has to be tuned to a certain note, which is represented by a letter. So the easiest way to look at it is the string closest to me and the string closest to you is an E. So this string right here has to be an E when it's perfectly in tune. If we jump to the next one, it's an A. The next one is a D. And then the last one is a G. And the easiest way to remember that is either elves and dwarfs gather, if you like the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit kind of vibe. You can say even a duck grooves. And you can also say Eddie ate dynamite, gross. You can basically make your own up as well, and if you're really creative and you can make your own acronym up, that's really good because it means you're going to remember it more. So obviously it has to go E, A, D, G, otherwise it's just not going to work. So that is how we tune to standard tuning. Let me show you all of the things that we're going to use today to help us get that tuning right, and then you can decide what's best for you by the end of this video, moving forward, and everyone is a winner. So the first one I'm going to show you is the app, and it is called the Boss Tuner. So this is a free app that is available on the App Store and Android Store, and the idea is that it's named after the Boss pedal, which is B-O-S-S, and it's named after the pedal, which is the TU3, and it's just a tuner. You might see it going absolutely crazy at the minute, and it's because it uses the microphone in your phone to pick up sound, which is really useful because it's free, but the only problem is if you're in a loud environment, which most musicians are, it's not really going to be that great because it doesn't know whether you're tuning the bass, whether you're tuning the drums in the background, whether you're tuning the guitar, or whether it's trying to pick up the singer. So you need to find a quiet place to go. For us today, it's going to be amazing because everything is nice and quiet. So that is the app, and it's called the Boss Tuner. The second piece of equipment we're using today is the Adario ClipOn tuner, and it's called a clip-on tuner because you literally clip it on to the headstock, which I'll show you how to do now. If you don't have a headstock on your bass, because some basses don't, you can clip it onto the body if the body is thin enough. So really, really useful because it picks up on vibration instead. So all we do is we literally take it and we clip it on to the end of the headstock, and that way the display can obviously be seen. When we play the string, it will tell me what the note is. This is very visual because it's very colorful, and when we hit the note and it's perfectly in tune, it will have a box around it. So we know that we're perfectly in tune to whatever letter that says, and obviously it has to be E, A, D, G. So that is the second piece of equipment we're using. The third piece of equipment is the Soundbrenner Core. So our third piece of equipment today is the Soundbrenner Core, which is this watch-looking thing right here. And it picks up, once again, on vibration, but it connects to the bass via a magnet. And you might see that it says chromatic tuner. Chromatic basically just means it's picking up every note of the musical scale, but we're not talking about music theory, we're not talking about the notes of the bass, etc. We're just talking about how to get it in tune to standard tuning, because that's what you need to learn first. So I'm going to clip this to the back of my bass via the magnet, and that way we can use all three when we tune it in just a second. So I've got all three tuners ready to go, probably looking like a spaceship right now at the end of my bass, but that doesn't matter. So the idea is, what you want to do is play a single note and let the note and the string ring out. Don't play it consistently like this. Doing that is not the best way to tune. You want to play it once, let the string ring out, see what the tuners say, and then adjust. So if the tuner says a letter that is below in the alphabet, you want to tune higher. So for example, if I play my E string and it says a C, C is before E, so we want to tune up, which is clockwise. If it says an alphabetical letter that is above in the alphabet, so it says a G, for example, we want to tune anti-clockwise, which is down. The one thing to remember, though, is because the string remembers the last thing you've just done, in terms of going down or up in tension, which is tuning, what we want to do is, if you go too high, you want to tune lower than the note and then tune back up to it. And it's because if you tune down, the string is going to be really loose. It's basically going to remember that it's got looser, and it means it's going to go out of tune faster. So this is a pro tip that most people don't know. If you tune up to the note, the last thing you've done with the string is you've tightened it and you've increased the tension, which means that the string is going to remember that it's been tightened, and it's going to stay in tune for longer, and it's going to give you a more consistent tuning moving forward. So make sure you're always tuning up to the note rather than down. So let's play my E string and let's see what tuning we've got. So you might have seen that it said a D with a weird symbol. Ignore the weird symbol for now. And you might have noticed my other tuner just said E with a weird symbol. Completely ignore the weird symbol. We want it to just say E. And with the two tuners that I've got on my bass and the one from the phone, they've all got a dial and they all light up green when they're perfectly in tune. So the idea is that when I play the note, I want it to either have a box around it or I want it to light up green, and it just needs to be E. If it's not just E, it's wrong. So I'm going to play the note, tune gradually up, and you'll see that it will obviously say E. For some of you that have got a really keen eye, you might have seen something that said scent. And the idea is cent is just a fraction higher or lower than your tuning. So if it's plus 2 cent, it means you're literally just higher than the note that you're trying to tune to. And if it says minus whatever the number is cent, it means you're just lower than the tuning. So you want to make sure that it says 0 cent. And that is perfectly in standard tuning. So what we want to look out for as well is you might see that some of these have 440 written on. 440 is basically known as standard tuning for your A string. If it's not 440, you're about to tune out of tune without even realizing it. So make sure it says 440. You don't need to know why and all the kind of fancy kind of scientific terms for it at the moment. All you need to know is 440 is 440 hertz, which means how many vibrations per second that note is making, and that is your A string. So if you see any other number that isn't 440, check it, change it, make sure it says 440, and you're going to be tuning to standard tuning for every single string. So let's see what my A note is. So this is actually kind of going all over the place because it is quite loose. So another pro tip, if you can pull the string off the bass with no tension whatsoever, it's actually quite out of tune. It's really, really loose. So you want to turn it clockwise, tighten it a little, and then when you can feel a bit of pressure on the string as you lift it up, that's going to roughly be right, and then you play it again, and then you tune up to the note, or if you've gone too far, tune down and then back up. So you can now see that that's saying a G, and this kind of doesn't make sense to what I said earlier because A comes before G, but in music we only use the first 7 letters of the alphabet, so after G comes another A, and the string is actually still quite loose, so that is your kind of reassurance that you need to go up to an A. If the string is quite loose, you definitely need to go higher, which means clockwise. If the string is really tight, then you definitely need to go lower, which is anti-clockwise. So kind of use your ears, the technology, and the touch of the strings to help you get that perfect tuning. So let's tune this up to an A. So that just said A, but actually said plus 6 cent. So I've actually gone a little bit too high. So I'm going to tune it down anti-clockwise. And then back up. So always go down, back up, just like I've always said. And that is now our A in tune. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just how fast you can get used to tuning with the D and the G string, because this does take time. It might take 5, 10, 15 minutes to get it right, but once you get it right, you can do it in seconds. So just bear with it, take your time to get good at it, and then you'll be able to just fly through it all. And you should tune the bass pretty much every time you pick it up, just in case it is out of tune. So I'll show you just how fast you can do it, and then I'll show you what E, A, D, and G sound like when they're perfectly in tune. So that was me just tuning the D and the G string in possibly about 30 seconds. Once you get used to the movement and the sound, you'll be able to do it really quickly. So just in case you're like, I still don't get how to tune to E, A, D, and G, I'm going to show you what the notes sound like when they're in tune. And if you can measure your bass sound to mine, if it sounds lower, you need to go higher. And if it sounds too high, you need to obviously come lower. So this is open E. This is A. D. And once you can do that and you're really comfortable with that, every bass line that you play moving forward will be perfectly in tune. And the idea is, it doesn't matter what technology you're using, use what's right for you. If you can get a more accurate tuner, awesome. If you have to settle for the free one for now, that's okay, but maybe look at upgrading in the future. So make sure you can tune your bass, watch this as many times as you need to, and when you're ready, I'll see you in the next video.